King Charles entered the private chamber expecting a difficult legal briefing. Instead, he was handed a court ruling that demanded an answer capable of breaking his family apart. The judgment stated that he could no longer support Camilla's claim to ceremonial authority, while also protecting Catherine's future position as queen. Before the session ended, Charles would have to choose one woman over the other, and everyone inside the room understood that there would be no harmless decision. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Charles lowered his eyes to the judgment as the room tightened. The ruling was not a suggestion. It ordered the king to decide whether Camilla would keep control over senior royal ceremonies, or whether that authority would pass permanently to Catherine, the woman expected to serve as queen beside William. Senior royal ceremonies were formal events through which rank and public authority were displayed. Losing control of them would strip Camilla of influence at the center of court life. Camilla sat across from him with her hands locked. She understood why the dispute mattered. Those powers shaped private estate funding, ceremonial precedents, and preparations for the next reign. Ceremonial precedents meant the order deciding who stood first, entered first, and acted with greater authority during royal events. If Catherine received those powers now, the future would begin before the present reign ended. Charles read the final paragraph twice. Then he removed his glasses and placed them beside the file without speaking. His silence cut deeper than anger. The monarch had spent decades preparing to protect the crown, yet the court was forcing him to choose between the wife who stood beside him and the future queen carrying the monarchy's next chapter. Catherine waited nearby, unaware that her name had become the legal reason Camilla could lose her authority. She believed the meeting concerned routine planning. William remained close, but offered no explanation, because even he did not understand how far the judgment reached. The presiding legal advisor leaned forward and delivered the cruelest detail. If Charles delayed, the disputed powers would transfer automatically to Catherine. Silence would not protect Camilla. Silence would decide against her. The king reached for the pen, but a court official stopped him with one final disclosure. A documented filing proved that neither Catherine, Camilla, nor William had started the case. Someone inside the royal household had forced the conflict into court. Before Charles could identify that hidden hand, he had to face what each woman truly meant to him, and why this choice threatened far more than ceremonial power. To the court, Camilla and Catherine represented two competing sources of royal authority. To Charles, they represented two completely different parts of his life. One had stood beside him through scandal, rejection, and years of public hostility. The other carried the monarchy's future through William and their children. When Charles looked from Camilla's empty chair to Catherine's unopened statement, he understood that the ruling was asking him to judge his past against the survival of the crown. Camilla's influence belonged to the present reign. She had earned it through years of private loyalty, public duty, and close access to Charles, when the pressure around him became almost unbearable. The present reign meant the period in which the current monarch ruled, and every role attached to it depended on his authority. For Camilla, losing those duties would feel like losing the proof that her place beside him had finally been accepted. Catherine's position belonged to succession. As William's wife and the expected queen of the next reign, every ceremonial responsibility passed to her would shape the monarchy long after Charles was gone. Succession meant the legal order by which the crown moved from one sovereign to the next. That made her role bigger than personal ambition. It made her part of the institution's survival. Camilla returned to her private sitting room and asked her dresser to leave. Once the door closed, she removed a royal brooch, placed it on the table, and stared at the empty space on her dress. The gesture carried years of pain. She had fought to stand beside Charles, and now the court seemed ready to reduce that life to a temporary chapter. Catherine received a short message ordering her not to enter the legal chamber. She remained seated beside William and asked whether Charles believed she had demanded Camilla's removal. The prince hesitated. He admitted that he had seen parts of the court submission, but he refused to tell her who had delivered the documents that triggered the case. Charles remembered a promise made in private after one of Camilla's hardest public moments. He had told her she would never again be sacrificed to protect the monarchy. Now the ruling made that promise almost impossible to keep, because defending her could weaken Catherine and place William's future reign under doubt. Catherine finally opened her written statement. Halfway down the first page, she found a reference to a private ceremony at Windsor that she believed everyone had forgotten. Her expression changed. William saw it immediately. That ceremony had not been a harmless disagreement. It was the moment a private rivalry became a documented challenge that forever altered the future of the crown. 6 months before the court ruling, the royal family gathered at Windsor for what was meant to be a controlled rehearsal for a major national service. No cameras were present. No public announcement was planned. Yet inside the chapel, one instruction changed the direction of the monarchy. Camilla ordered Catherine to leave the senior royal position reserved for the future queen. Catherine obeyed without protest, but one witness recorded every word, and that record eventually reached the court. Camilla spoke with calm authority, but the order stunned everyone nearby. The closed Windsor Chapel rehearsal was a private practice session used to confirm where each senior royal would stand, enter, and sit during the national service. Catherine had been placed in the position assigned to the future queen. The queen consort told her to step aside and stand behind several senior family members instead. Catherine looked toward Charles before moving. She expected the king to correct the instruction or at least question it. He lowered his eyes to the service papers and remained silent. That silence mattered because the order of precedence, the formal ranking that determines who takes priority during royal ceremonies, reflected more than seating. It showed whose authority the palace recognized. William watched his wife move without protest. The prince saw the hurt she tried to hide, and he also saw Camilla remain firmly in place. Princess Anne observed the exchange from several steps away, while 2 ceremonial officers and the palace legal secretary heard every word. The secretary's duty was to confirm that royal arrangements followed the approved constitutional order. William waited until the chapel emptied before confronting his father. He told Charles that Catherine would not be humiliated simply to preserve temporary peace. The king warned his son not to turn one rehearsal dispute into a family war. Yet the future monarch answered that the war had begun the moment silence was used as permission. Anne acted before the memory could be softened. She requested a written copy of the rehearsal instructions, but the palace office refused to release it. The Princess Royal then preserved the original seating document and delivered it to an independent royal legal advisor, a lawyer working outside palace control. The legal secretary also created a documented account of Camilla's exact words. That record showed she had claimed authority extending beyond Charles's reign, directly challenging Catherine's future constitutional position. Weeks later, the document reached the court beside a handwritten amendment carrying Charles's initials. It suggested the monarch had once approved Camilla's expanded power before quietly withdrawing it. Now the conflict could no longer remain buried inside palace files. Camilla and Catherine were about to face each other, with Charles seated between them. The meeting begins without advisors, secretaries, or ceremonial officers. Charles sits at the head of a narrow table. Camilla takes the chair to his right. Catherine sits opposite her, with William standing near the closed door. For several seconds, no one speaks. Then Camilla asks Catherine whether she intends to take everything before Charles's reign is over. Catherine does not raise her voice. She simply answers that she never asked the court to take anything at all. Charles had arranged the private confrontation because the court's deadline was closing in. A family settlement meant a private agreement reached before the king was forced to issue a formal declaration, a binding statement that would define royal authority. He hoped the 4 of them could stop the crisis before legal language turned personal pain into permanent history. William remained, because Catherine refused to discuss her future without the man whose reign would one day make her queen. The prince understood that every duty transferred now could shape how the next monarchy began. She understood something deeper. Accepting power in silence could make her look like the architect of Camilla's fall. Camilla leaned forward and accused Catherine of letting others use her popularity as a weapon. The queen consort said public affection had become pressure, and pressure had become a blade aimed at her place beside Charles. Catherine answered that silence during humiliation should never be mistaken for revenge. She had obeyed at Windsor. She had not forgotten. Charles tried to interrupt, but Camilla pushed her chair back. She asked whether he truly believed she had damaged the crown. The king hesitated. That pause wounded her more than anger could have done, because it suggested the answer already existed inside him. Catherine then produced a signed document from her legal file. She explained that it refused every personal benefit arising from the case. Her only request was a clear separation between Camilla's current ceremonial role and the powers belonging to the future queen. Ceremonial powers meant the authority to direct major royal events, approve precedents, and shape preparations for the next reign. William placed the original Windsor seating plan on the table. He pointed to the handwritten amendment beneath Charles's initials. The monarch admitted the initials were his, but insisted the final sentence had been added after he approved the page. Camilla studied the writing. Her anger vanished. She recognized the hand immediately and whispered the name of a senior courtier who had served Charles for decades. The conflict had now moved beyond husband, wife, and future queen. Someone close to the throne had been shaping the decision from the shadows. The altered document does not belong to a stranger, an enemy, or an ambitious outsider. The handwriting belongs to Sir Malcolm Harrow, Charles's longest-serving constitutional advisor, and the man trusted to translate private wishes into formal royal instructions. For years he had stood silently behind the throne. Now one added sentence had placed Camilla's marriage, Catherine's future, and Charles's credibility before a court. The question was no longer who held power, but who had manipulated it. Charles summoned Sir Malcolm to the private library before dawn. The advisor controlled ceremonial drafts, court correspondence, briefing papers, and the legal wording used to define temporary and permanent royal authority. A constitutional advisor was the official who guided the monarch on rules, powers, and lawful procedure. That access had allowed him to shape decisions before anyone else saw them. Sir Malcolm entered without apology. Charles placed the amended Windsor document on the desk and asked whether he had written the added sentence. The advisor answered through a recorded private meeting preserved by the palace secretary. Yes. He did not hesitate. He did not soften the confession. The king stared at him, stunned less by the betrayal than by its calm delivery. Sir Malcolm said the monarchy could not survive another uncertain transition. He believed Catherine needed legal protection before William's accession, the moment when the future king would formally take the throne. In his view, Charles's silence at Windsor had created a gap that private influence could exploit. He had filled that gap with a sentence designed to force clarity. Charles struck the desk with his palm. Protecting Camilla, he said, did not give any servant of the crown permission to deceive the sovereign. The sovereign meant the reigning monarch, the person who held the crown's formal authority. Sir Malcolm replied that loyalty without truth had already become deception inside the palace. The advisor then admitted he had designed the court challenge. He wanted a ruling Charles could not later reverse under emotional pressure. Every sealed filing, every copied instruction, and every legal deadline had been arranged to corner the king into one final choice. Sir Malcolm opened a second file before leaving. Inside was Camilla's private written request, asking whether Catherine's future authority could be delayed if the present reign required longer stability. Charles read the page twice. The queen consort had not asked to remove Catherine, but she had asked to hold the future back. The evidence had exposed manipulation on every side. Yet consequences were already moving through the palace before Charles could decide whom he still trusted. And by sunrise, the first royal privileges would be removed, turning secret betrayal into a public punishment. The first consequence arrives before breakfast. Camilla's office receives a revised schedule, removing her from 3 planning meetings, a chapel rehearsal, and the final approval of a state banquet. No announcement is made, but the message is unmistakable. Until Charles reaches a decision, her disputed authority is suspended. Camilla reads the page alone, folds it carefully, and asks only one question: whether Catherine has already been told that the rooms now belong to her. Camilla understood what the court's interim order had done. An interim order was a temporary legal command used to freeze disputed powers until a final decision could be made. It prevented the queen consort from exercising ceremonial authority that might later be declared invalid. That mattered because every meeting removed from her schedule weakened her place inside the present reign. Catherine received an instruction asking her to oversee future reign planning. She refused to enter Camilla's office or use the staff assigned to the queen. The princess knew that accepting those rooms would look like victory, and victory built on another woman's humiliation could poison William's reign before it began. Camilla entered the wardrobe chamber that morning. She saw garment cases being relabeled for separate ceremonial control and touched one tag with 2 fingers. Ceremonial control meant the power to approve clothing, jewels, and formal presentation for major royal occasions. The queen turned away before the staff could explain, carrying the pain in silence. Charles visited her that evening. He spoke carefully, but Camilla would not face him. She said the suspension felt like a verdict he had been too afraid to deliver himself. The king tried to explain that the court had acted before he could decide, yet she answered that his hesitation had made the decision possible. Catherine then received Camilla's private legal request through a documented court summary. It did not demand her removal. Instead, it asked for a 10-year delay in transferring certain powers, even if William became king sooner. The future king saw control in every line. He believed the request was designed to bind his reign to the wishes of the one before it. Catherine read the words differently. She heard fear. She saw a woman terrified that Charles's death would erase her place overnight, leaving her without purpose, influence, or protection. Catherine told William she had to meet Camilla alone. He warned that one unguarded conversation could destroy the fragile legal protection around her. She answered that lawyers had defined the conflict, but only honesty could end it. For the first time, the two women would meet without Charles between them, and their words would change the meaning of the choice he had to make. Catherine enters Camilla's private sitting room alone. No aides wait outside the door. No notes are taken. Camilla remains beside the window and does not invite her to sit. Catherine places the sealed court statement on a table and says she will not accept a victory built on humiliation. Camilla answers that humiliation is exactly what she expects. Then Catherine asks the question no lawyer has asked, whether Camilla is fighting for authority or simply terrified of what happens when Charles can no longer protect her. Camilla does not answer. Catherine explains that her concern has never been the queen consort's place beside Charles. Her concern is any arrangement that binds William's future reign to decisions made without his consent. A future reign means the period when the next monarch rules, carrying duties, staff, and authority. If old promises control that chapter, the new sovereign begins already trapped. Camilla turns toward her. She admits through the private conversation that the 10-year delay was designed to preserve her charitable work, household stability, and a place for herself after Charles's reign ended. Personal patronages were the charities and public causes supported by a royal figure. Losing them would not only remove duties, it would erase the purpose she had spent years building. Camilla's voice lowers as she confesses more. For decades, she has entered rooms feeling people measure her against another woman, another marriage, and another version of the monarchy. The queen says every title she gained carried an old judgment beside it. Even acceptance had never felt secure. Catherine listens quietly. She then tells Camilla that she also understands what it means to enter a room as a symbol before being treated as a person. The princess has been judged as a wife, a future queen, and the mother of heirs before anyone considered the private cost. That admission weakens the hostility between them. Catherine opens the sealed statement and offers a compromise. Camilla will retain her personal patronages, residences, and honors connected to Charles. Constitutional authority, meaning the formal power tied to the crown and the next reign, will pass immediately and permanently to William and Catherine. Camilla reads the proposal twice. She agrees, but adds one condition. Charles must announce the decision publicly as king, not privately as a husband trying to protect her feelings. The monarch must own the choice. Catherine returns to the legal chamber carrying Camilla's signed acceptance. Yet Charles has not said whether he will honor it or reject it to keep his original promise. The private battle is over. The final burden now rests with Charles, who must face the court and accept the personal cost of being king. By sunrise, the sealed hearing is no longer secret. Crowds gather outside Buckingham Palace while broadcasters interrupt regular programming with the same question. Will Charles defend Camilla or secure Catherine's future? One newspaper appears with a divided front page. On the left is Camilla entering the court alone. On the right is Catherine leaving Windsor beside William. Across the center, in enormous white letters, are 4 words. The king must choose. Britain waits for the palace doors to open. Palace officials issue a brief statement confirming that Charles will deliver a binding decision after the final court session. A binding decision is a formal ruling that cannot be ignored or quietly changed once declared. The announcement turns a private family crisis into a national test, because the answer will define both Camilla's present authority and Catherine's future place beside William. Royal staff receive orders not to discuss the dispute, yet silence cannot hide the changes. Camilla's ceremonial meetings disappear from the official schedule, while Catherine is asked to review plans connected to the next reign. Those responsibilities matter because they decide who prepares major events, guides senior staff, and shapes the public face of the monarchy before power formally changes hands. William watches the television coverage without speaking. The prince fears Catherine will be blamed for a victory she never requested, and he knows public sympathy can quickly become resentment. She sits beside him, reading every headline carefully, aware that one careless reaction could make compromise look like conquest. Camilla hears a crowd outside Clarence's house chanting Catherine's name. The queen closes the curtain, stands still, then opens it again. She refuses to hide from the mood beyond the gates, even as each voice reminds her that the country may already have chosen which woman represents the future. A broadcaster then changes the argument. During a live morning report, he says the case is not about two women fighting for rank. It is a test of whether the current reign will obstruct the next one. That framing spreads within minutes and raises the pressure on Charles. The palace responds with a documented statement confirming that Camilla and Catherine have jointly submitted a proposed settlement. Commentators fall silent. The women expected to fight until the end have chosen compromise instead. As the court clock approaches noon, Charles enters carrying two documents, their agreement and his own separate declaration. Neither woman has seen his words. His decision will not settle the case. It will expose whether love or duty commands the crown at last. The public has chosen its meaning. The women have chosen peace. And now Charles must choose what kind of king history will remember. Charles stands before the court, with Camilla seated behind him, and Catherine beside William on the opposite side of the chamber. He does not begin with legal language. He begins with an apology. He admits that his silence at Windsor allowed uncertainty to become injury, and that his desire to protect one person placed another in an impossible position. Then he opens the declaration, and makes the choice everyone has been waiting to hear. The future authority of the crown will belong fully to Catherine. Charles accepts the joint agreement. The document permanently transfers every power connected to the next reign, future coronation planning, ceremonial precedence, and succession preparation, to Catherine and William. Ceremonial precedence means the formal order deciding who leads, enters first, and holds authority at major royal events. Succession preparation means the work that protects a smooth transfer of the crown from one monarch to the next. Camilla keeps her place beside Charles. She retains her residences, personal patronages, honors, and ceremonial role for the rest of his reign. Personal patronages are the charities and public causes supported by a royal figure. Yet the queen consort receives no control over William's future rule, and her position is defined without fear or hidden conditions. Camilla closes her eyes as the decision is read. Then she looks directly at Catherine and gives a small nod. The gesture is painful, but it is not defeat. Catherine does not smile. She crosses the chamber, takes Camilla's hand, and makes clear that the transfer of power will not become a humiliation. Charles then turns to Sir Malcolm Harrow. Through the formal declaration, the king removes him from royal service for altering the Windsor document. The monarch states that constitutional stability, the legal balance that keeps the crown secure, cannot be built through deception, even when the intended result appears practical. Charles accepts responsibility as well. He says that a sovereign who refuses to clarify power allows others to misuse it. That admission restores moral weight to the ruling. He has chosen Catherine's future authority without rejecting Camilla as his wife. William watches the two women stand together and understands the true verdict. The monarchy can protect tomorrow without erasing today. Catherine receives the role she was always meant to carry, not as a conqueror, but as a guardian of continuity. There is no further battle to fight. The court closes, the documents are sealed, and the monarchy leaves with one clear order. Camilla will stand beside Charles, but Catherine will carry the crown forward. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.